When love meets insecurity, can a couple overcome the challenges of trust and find their way back to each other? Join me on a heartfelt journey of love, loss, and redemption. The unexpected news. Let me take you back to April of 2025, a month that held two monumental moments for me. I found out my girlfriend, Jen, was pregnant, and I closed on a house for us to move into. I remember the rush of excitement, the dreams of a family forming in my mind. Jen and I had been together for 4 wonderful years, and now we were about to step into a new chapter. Family and friends were thrilled, and we shared our news with joy, including Jen's best childhood friend, Amanda. Now, I have to be honest here, I always felt a bit uneasy about the dynamic between Jen and Amanda. It didn't really impact our relationship much, since Amanda lived across the country, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. Fast forward to late May, when Amanda decided to move back to our hometown. Suddenly, everything changed. Jen, who had always been a confident and sexy woman in my eyes, began to feel self-conscious. I didn't understand it at first. After all, she was gorgeous, with curves that could turn heads. But Amanda's return seemed to unleash a storm of insecurities, and I watched helplessly as Jen began to spiral. The tension escalated. Amanda, it seemed, thrived on Jen's anxieties, and soon Jen was asking to check my phone. We had never been the type of couple to snoop. We believed that trust was paramount, but Jen had started to doubt everything. I expressed my hurt, my frustration, and my concerns, but each time I did, she brushed them aside. I felt like I was losing her to the very person who should have been supporting her. Things took a turn for the worse when Jen insisted on looking through my phone for the umpteenth time. I felt a mix of anger and sadness as I made it clear that this was the last time. I thought I was setting a boundary, a line in the sand. If she found nothing suspicious, we would go to counseling together and she would distance herself from Amanda. It seemed fair, right? But when she looked through my phone and found nothing, she didn't keep her end of the bargain. Feeling betrayed and unheard, I made the difficult decision to move out. I didn't want to leave Jen, especially with a baby on the way, but her refusal to trust me was tearing us apart. I moved into a friend's place, leaving Jen in a position that I knew would be challenging. We were in a limbo, and uncertainty loomed over us like a dark cloud. How did it come to this? I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being pushed away, all because of Amanda's influence. Would this be the end of our dreams together, or just a necessary pause to find our way back to each other? Part 2. The Turning Point. The days turned into weeks, and the separation felt like an eternity. I found myself reflecting on our relationship, our history, and all the moments that had led us here. I missed Jen deeply, but I also felt a sense of relief. I could finally breathe without the weight of constant accusations. Jen, on the other hand, was still in turmoil, and I could sense that she was struggling. Her emotions were like a roller coaster, and I couldn't help but worry about her mental state. After a couple of weeks, I received a text from Jen. She wanted to meet. My heart raced as I prepared for what could be a pivotal moment for both of us. When we sat down, she apologized for her behavior, especially for how she reacted when I moved out. It felt like a glimmer of hope. She expressed a desire to reconnect, and I was cautiously optimistic. Yet, when she mentioned that she would stop searching my phone if I moved back in, I felt a knot in my stomach. I had to remind her that trust is built, not just given. I asked her why she had started looking through my phone in the first place. It was a simple question, but I could see her hesitation. She didn't have a clear answer, which only fueled my concerns. As we talked, she opened up about her insecurities, linking them back to Amanda's influence. Amanda's past relationship had been riddled with infidelity, and it seemed that Jen was projecting her fears onto our relationship. I tried to reassure her, reminding her of our strong foundation, but it was like talking to a wall. I suggested counseling again, hoping it could be a path to healing, but she hesitated. She told me she wasn't ready for counseling and still wanted to maintain her friendship with Amanda. My heart sank. How could we move forward if she wasn't willing to address the underlying issues? We parted ways that day with an understanding that we were not yet ready to reconcile. I felt a mix of sadness and determination. I needed to protect myself and my future, but at what cost? The baby was on the way, and I couldn't shake the feeling that we needed to make this work for their sake. Would we ever find common ground? Part 3. Birthday surprises and boundaries. As September rolled around, I found myself preparing for my 30th birthday. Honestly, I had never been one to celebrate my birthday in grand fashion. It was just another day to me, a chance to reflect on the past year. I had moved into my new house, and while it felt bittersweet to celebrate alone, I was determined to enjoy the day my way. Then, out of the blue, Jen showed up at my door with groceries, insisting on making me dinner. My heart skipped a beat. I was surprised, and a little wary. We had been tiptoeing around each other since I moved out, but here she was, ready to cook for me as if nothing had happened. I tried to keep my boundaries in place, reminding myself that this was not a return to our previous relationship. As we cooked together, the familiar spark was there, and I felt my walls starting to crumble. We laughed and talked, almost like old times, but I remained cautious. I could sense Jen was testing the waters, trying to see how far she could push. After dinner, we settled in front of the TV to finish the movie. I thought maybe we could be friends, maybe even co-parents, but I knew better than to let my guard down. Then came the moment that changed everything again. Jen excused herself to go to the bathroom, and when she returned, she was wearing a lingerie set I loved. My heart raced, but not in the way I expected. I told her to stop. She looked hurt and confused, and I felt a pang of guilt. I didn't want to hurt her, but I had to be firm. I couldn't let her manipulate our situation any longer. I insisted she leave, and she did, looking dejected and on the verge of tears. That night, I felt a tumult of emotions. I had been firm, but I also felt a deep sadness. The next few days were a blur as I tried to make sense of what had happened. I reached out to her, wanting to talk, but each time I was met with silence. She didn't want to see me, and I could feel the walls closing in. Was this the end, or was it a necessary step toward healing? I needed to know, but would she ever come back to me? Part 4. The Final Straw. After several days of silence, I finally got a call from Jen. I could feel the tension through the phone as she demanded to know who I was with. The accusations started to fly again, and I felt my heart sink. I had hoped we would be able to move past our issues, but here we were, back at square one. When she asked to see my phone, I felt a wave of frustration wash over me. I had made it clear that I wouldn't allow her to invade my privacy any longer. I told her firmly that I wouldn't let her see it, and that's when the yelling began. She accused me of lying, of cheating, and I could hear the desperation in her voice. It was as if all the progress we had made had crumbled away in an instant. In that moment, I felt a sense of clarity. If she didn't trust me, perhaps we needed to learn how to co-parent instead of being in a relationship. I expressed this to her, and to my surprise, she agreed. We were officially done. It felt surreal, but at the same time, I felt a weight lifting off my shoulders. I had fought for our relationship, but I couldn't continue to be accused and mistrusted. In the days that followed, I focused on preparing for the baby. I attended prenatal appointments with Jen, trying to be present for her despite the emotional turmoil between us. I felt like I was floating between two worlds, one where I was a supportive partner, and another where I was a distant co-parent. Would we be able to navigate this new reality together, or would our past continue to haunt us? Part 5. A New Hope. The weeks turned into months, and I found myself adjusting to this new life as a co-parent. Jen had moved in with her mother, and I was settling into my new house. It was a strange existence, filled with moments of joy and sadness. I still cared for Jen, but the trust issues lingered like a shadow. Then, one day, as I was going about my routine, I received a text from Jen asking if we could talk. My heart raced. Could this be the moment we had been waiting for? I agreed, and we met up at a local coffee shop. The atmosphere was tense, but there was a flicker of hope in her eyes. Jen opened up about her feelings, expressing how much she missed me and how she was struggling with the changes. She admitted that she had been reflecting on her behavior and realized how her insecurities had impacted our relationship. I listened intently, my heart softening. Maybe there was a chance for us after all. She mentioned wanting to start counseling, a concept that had felt so distant just weeks before. I felt a mixture of relief and skepticism. Would this time be different? As we talked, I could see the sincerity in her eyes. We agreed to take small steps toward rebuilding our relationship, but I made it clear that trust needed to be earned back. As we parted ways, I felt a cautious optimism. It was a baby step, but it was progress nonetheless. I knew it wouldn't be easy, but for the first time in a long time, I felt like we were on the right path. Would we be able to overcome the obstacles and find our way back to each other, or was this just a temporary reprieve? Part 6. A New Beginning. As time went on, Jen and I began to rebuild our connection. We started attending counseling together, and it was eye-opening. We learned to communicate better, to express our feelings without fear of judgment. I could see the change in Jen. She was working through her insecurities, and I was committed to being patient and supportive. The day our baby arrived was a whirlwind of emotions. Holding that little bundle of joy in my arms, I felt an overwhelming sense of love and responsibility. Jen was by my side, and for the first time in a long time, I felt like a family. We were navigating the challenges of parenthood together, and it brought us closer. In the months that followed, we continued to work on our relationship. The counseling sessions became a safe space for us to address our issues and celebrate our victories. I saw Jen thriving as a mother, and it filled me with pride. Slowly but surely, we were healing the wounds that had once driven us apart. One evening, as we sat together watching our baby sleep, I turned to Jen and smiled. "We've come a long way, haven't we?" She nodded, her eyes sparkling. "I never thought we could get here, but I'm so glad we did." In that moment, I realized that love is not just about the easy times, it's about weathering the storms together. As we embraced, I felt a sense of hope for our future. The road ahead wouldn't be without its challenges, but I knew we could face anything as long as we were together. We were no longer just a couple, we were a team, committed to our family and to each other. Our journey was far from over, but it felt like a beautiful new beginning.